Shabbat Shalom. If you were following along with the Torah reading, and you better have been, you will have noticed that there was a strong recurring theme throughout this first part of the parasha, which is, you better follow the commandments or else. It was kind of, I don't know, intimidating, a little threatening. God kept going on about the importance of following the commandments or else we would not last long in this good land that we were about to enter. He pointed out that the Canaanites that had living there before were not the best moral exemplars, and that was fundamentally the reason why they were going out, and we were being given a chance to go in. It reminds me very much of a famous midrash that comes from the giving of the Torah itself. It says that in that moment, we stood betachtit hahar. Now, what does that mean? Well, the usual translation you will see is that we were at the foot of the mountain. But tachtit does not have anything to do with a foot. Really, it's a preposition, tachat, that generally would mean under. And so the midrash takes it at its face value, that we were standing under the mountain. How could we be standing under Mount Sinai? It's not exactly known for being riddled with caves. Says the midrash, God picked up the mountain and held it over our heads and said, so, I got this Torah thing I'd like to give you. Do you want it or not? You should understand. If you want it, great, all is well and good. If you say no, this will be your grave. That is to say, in the usual feeling that most people have when reading this midrash, God is threatening us with extinction at that moment, saying that if we reject Torah, he will simply bury us in good old Khrushchev fashion, that we will be buried beneath the mountain because God will murder us for refusing to accept his Torah. And just as people misunderstood what Khrushchev was talking about when he said, we will bury you, he did not mean that they would take action to bury, but rather that they would outlive us to be standing there when we were dead. So too, this burying of us is misunderstood. When God is holding the mountain over us in the symbol of the midrash and saying, if you accept the Torah, good, and if not, this will be your grave, God is not threatening us or coercing us into accepting the Torah, for as we know, according to Torah, any agreement entered into under coercion doesn't count as an agreement. If I hold a gun to your head and say, sell me your car for $1, and you actually sell the car and sign over the pink slip and all of that other good stuff, that doesn't count as a legitimate sale. You are able to go to the police afterwards and take back your car, and you have to give me back the $1, I suppose, but you are absolutely able to cancel that because it was an illegitimate sale made under duress. So if this hovering mountain is not trying to tell us something about the coercion that was taking place at that time, then what is the midrash supposed to be trying to tell us? Well, simply it is giving us a lesson in exactly what our survival will depend upon. Our survival as a people, not our survival as individuals, not our survivals of the selfish gene, to use the modern phrasing in genetics, but our survival as Am Yisrael. What God is saying is that our survival as a nation is contingent upon our acceptance of the Torah. That we are free, truly free. There is no coercion involved. We are free to lay down the Torah anytime we like. But the moment we do so, we as a people are dead. The moment we give up Torah, we are buried as a nation. As individuals, we will go on. As individuals, we will carry forward into our own little dramas and paths. But as a nation, we will be no more. You need only look to the Canaanites and the Amorites and the Moabites and the Ammonites and all of the other ites that littered the annals of Torah and the archaeological sites of the Middle East to recognize that this is entirely true. Where are the Moabites today? Where are the Ammonites today? For that matter, where are the Romans today? That one you might think you have an answer to. Where are the Romans today? You're going to think in Rome? Not so much. Who lives in Rome these days? The Italians. Are the Italians Romans? They may be Romans in the sense that they have an address that's found in the city of Rome, but are they living Roman lives in the way that capital R Rome, at its height for 1,000 years, proposed and supported? Absolutely not. The life of a modern Italian living in Rome is nothing like the life of an ancient Roman who lived in England or North Africa or in Judea. They had an entirely different culture. They had an entirely different set of instructions of how to live. They had a different Torah. And in time, the Romans gave up that Torah. They gave up what it meant to be Roman according to the rules that had guided them for 1,000 years. Just as the Moabites gave up on those rules, and the Ammonites, the Canaanites, and all the other ites, they gave up on those rules. And they became something entirely different. Do they still exist as individual descendants of the genetic heritage of the people who were there in those different geographical regions in the ancient world? Of course. Do they exist as inheritors of what it meant to be one of the members of those people? Absolutely not. And why not? Well, the water tells us. Let me ask you a quick physics question. Which puddle will disappear fastest? The water that I poured into the plate or the water that I poured into the glass? Which one of these is going to be dry first? The plate. Now, I tried to put the same amount in, right? But you're right, the plate is going to be driest first. Why? Surface area, which is greater, which causes more molecules to leave at once through the process we know as evaporation. The glass, on the other hand, has structure that holds it together, that protects it on the sides, allowing its surface area for evaporation to be reduced and allowing it to retain itself. Now, the water is probably a little annoyed at being in the glass because, well, water likes to find the lowest point. Water likes to spread out. Water does not like being confined, as anybody who's ever had an aquarium knows. Leaks happen because water wants to move. It wants to go, and it is always under pressure. And especially here in Florida, we know that can cause lots of trouble, whether it be in the roof, through the garage, or any other place that the water is trying to get. So the water probably feels a little aggrieved that I put it in the glass, and the water that's in the plate is a little bit happier, thinking that it's got more room to spread out. But in a matter of hours, the water in the plate will be spread out completely through evaporation into vapor in the air, whereas the water in the glass, complaining though it may be, will still be there. That's slightly diminished, of course, because we can't alter the complete rules of physics, but it will still be there. And so too people, nations, cultures, traditions. Yes, it sometimes feels like Judaism impinges upon our lives, forces us, asks of us, demands of us, guilts us into doing things that, we'd just rather spread out. We'd just rather relax. I mean, honestly, who wants to be here on a Saturday morning if you could just stay nice and cozy at home? Well, the water in the glass hopefully would learn that doing what it's asked, conforming to that shape around it, is actually protecting and guiding and strengthening it, even if it doesn't always feel that way at moments where we would like to have a more relaxed, puddle-like existence. But our history has shown that by maintaining our form, by staying within the boundaries of Torah that we are able to survive. We are able to survive tragedies that have befallen other nations, but have also stripped them, robbed them of their identity and their future. The Romans are not here. Strong though they were, mighty, powerful, in multiple orders of magnitude beyond anything our people ever achieved on the military, economic, or cultural impact scale is as usually measured. And yet they are gone because they became a puddle and we remained a glass. Why? Because of Torah. That mountain hovering over our heads was simply an instructional method, a little bit more powerful than a few drops of water, but then I'm not God to lift a mountain over your head to show you that yes, if we reject Torah, we will be buried. If we reject Torah, we, as us, will be gone. The Torah is there as our life support system. The Torah is there as the bond that pulls us together and overrides the pressures that are constantly pushing against any group of people, asking them to disperse, to give up, to fracture, to divide and become divided, to turn upon one another and then to turn backs on one another. The Torah is there to counter all of those natural tendencies within groups. And as such, we can endure. God wasn't threatening us with Torah. God wasn't trying to burden us with Torah. God was trying to save us with Torah, save us from the dust of history, to save us from our own tendencies, to save us from all of the nightmares that can come from being lost and adrift as but an atom, floating purposelessly throughout the world, without form, without shape, without meaning. The Torah does a very good job of giving us that structure. But unlike the water, we still have to choose to go in the glass. Please, join me. It's nice in there. Shabbat Shalom.